welcome back. It's September now. September 1st. It's Labor Day weekend, which is relaxing. It's been nice. I've just been rotting. That's all I've been doing. Rotting to the point where my sister came over to me and was like, you need some hobbies. And I was like, I gotta film this video. This is like, I'm rotting too much. Let me do something that's a little bit productive. Well, I guess we'll start off with like, I graduated. I don't think I've talked to you guys since I've graduated. It's just been kind of crazy. Now that I'm done with architecture school, like basically like, it's time to unpack. I think that it's true. It is time to unpack. And there were quite a few questions. So if you don't already know me, hi, my name is Poshman. I just graduated from the University of Oregon. I did a minor in interior architecture and I majored in architecture. And I did the 5-year BArch program. But basically a BArch program is a 5-year program that allows you to apply, like sit for your licensure exams after you complete the degree, so you don't have to go to grad school and get your MArch. You can just do your BArch for 5 years and you're good to go. You don't necessarily need to go to grad school unless you want to. That's kind of my intro, and then we'll start off with like some of the questions that were asked, because that will probably take some time. I guess like the biggest question I got was like, was it worth it? Yeah, duh, 100%. I think it was worth it. It was probably the most amazing 5 years ever. I learned so much and I found so much of myself during those 5 years. I was able to explore different things, meet new people, and like learn more about myself, I think too, which was like very, that's such a great opportunity, and it's so amazing to be able to do that. So yeah, I would say it was worth it. I mean, I'm not saying it was easy. It was very difficult. And there were times where I was like, why am I here? I should go into like something else. Like, why did I choose this major? And then like, I think my next thought would always be like, no, but you love it. Like, this is what you want to do. Like, it's just like, there's always the thoughts that come of like, is it worth it? Like, am I doing this for the right reasons? Like, am I happy? It is a very fulfilling degree, and I think I learned a lot. And I love architecture. I think that's like, I've been passionate about it for years now. So I don't know, I really love everything about it. So I would say it's worth it. I mean, like, whenever you think like, oh, am I like, is this worth it? Like, you're sitting in studio late at night, like drawing like a straight line for 2 hours. Like, if you're passionate about it, if you're like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, yeah, it is so worth it. I highly recommend the 5-year program over 4-year, 4+2, anything like that. I think the 5-year program is amazing. Favorite and least favorite part? Oh, okay. I think my favorite part was obviously the people. I met so many amazing people, made so many cool friends, learned so much from just super intelligent professors. Study abroad was amazing. Getting the opportunity to like intern in Seattle too, like that was incredible. Yeah, I think people and like opportunities was definitely like my favorite part of it. My least favorite part, sometimes those late nights in studio really got me. I was like, oh, I'm so tired, I'm so exhausted, because it is draining. Like, architecture school is not easy, and it is mentally, physically, emotionally stimulating and draining. And so sometimes I would be like, why am I doing this to myself? This is so tiring, I need sleep. No all-nighters. I never pulled an all-nighter during the 5 years. That doesn't mean it wasn't tiring. Like, there were still lots of like very late nights, and the stress was at times unnecessary, but it's okay. It was, I think in the end, going back to the first question, it was worth it. Time management. How did you juggle everything? My Google Calendar and my little iPad that I got after my 3rd year, the summer in Seattle in 2022. Yeah, 2022. I got this mini iPad. It's so tiny, it fits in literally every bag, and my Google Calendar, every single device, computer, laptop, it's on everything. Notifications, all the time. My Google Calendar notifies me through my do not disturb. Like I have it like go through because I need to know like everything. If it's in my Google Calendar, I'll be there for that. I'll be doing that. If it's not my Google Calendar, I am simply gonna forget. I worked a lot on the weekends too. I did a lot of studio on the weekends, and I think being productive during studio time and during like your break hours, I think that was very useful for me, and that's what I did that a lot. I mean, obviously like there were things that I was lacking in. There were some years that I didn't prioritize my physical or mental health that much. Started to do that later on in school, but I think that Google Calendar, my planner on my iPad, Good Notes, I can do like a whole thing about that too if you want to learn more about that. But that was definitely what I did. And like everything had a different color. Everything had like its own specific notebook, like Google Calendar section. Everything was like color coded and like just arranged very specifically. I think this next question goes with the last question. Managing studio time with other things, plus when to move from hand-drawn to computer. Managing studio time with other things was definitely like, it was hard, I think. I would a lot of time like center my like social hour friend hangout situations as like a study and chit chat type thing, because a lot of the time I could do studio while I was doing while I was like with friends, and like we'd go to a cafe and like I'd take that time to like hang out with that person. We could chat a little bit and I could still do studio and stuff. But then also like realizing that, hey, like you need a break. Somewhere down the line I realized like it doesn't matter. Like you, as long as you try your best, like that's all that matters, and you produce work that you're happy with. I think that's the biggest thing. That was the Google Calendar and planner definitely did help. And then my whole thing was like worked hard and got to enjoy like evenings and hang out with my friends, and being able to like have that time and spend that time with them, or being able to travel and stuff too. I think that was a big part of it. Clear communication, whether that be with like your group that you're working with, a student org, your boss if you have a job. Having clear communication, being like, hey, like I don't have the bandwidth to do this right now. They're going to respect that most of the time. If not, then you should stand up for yourself. But saying that you don't have the bandwidth for that, or being like, hey, like I don't think I have time for this. I have something coming up. I have final review. I have finals. I have an exam. Blah blah blah. That's okay. And realizing that that's okay to do that. Another big thing for me was like in my planner, I would like write the number of like what's highest priority and what's like lowest priority. So like if there was a certain thing that was due the next day, that's like #1 priority on my list to get done. And then like so on and so forth. So that definitely helped a lot. I've been doing that since high school, so that's probably like where that came from. But yeah, always start early too. Like if you know that something's gonna take you a while, do a little bit every day. Don't wait till the last minute to do it all, because that's what happens with the all-nighters and stuff. And just try not to be last minute, and know when to quit. I think a lot of the time with design, we never know when to quit and when to be done. So that's another really big thing of like knowing that like, okay, this is it, this is done, I can't do anything more or else I'm gonna drive myself crazy. So knowing when to quit and not leaving anything till like the last minute, and making sure you get good sleep before final review, because that's very important. The second part of the question, when to move from hand to digital. So I learned, like we had hand drawing classes in our first year, so I did hand drawing for the first like year and a half, like I think my third preliminary studio, which was the fall of my second year. I did all hand drawing during COVID, which was like lots of scanning, honestly. I always try to incorporate hand drawing into my designs if I can. Always start off with hand drawing and then move into digital realm, but I think always start off with hand drawing is like a big part of like my design process. Whether that be like the first couple weeks doing hand drawings and then moving into digital, just so you can get a feel of the space. You are being able to understand like how large a space actually is, because in Revit, Rhino, like Vectorworks, AutoCAD, you are not able to understand how large a space is from your tiny little screen. Like I can't do that. I always like have to have it drawn out first to scale. whether it be like sketchy like perspectives or actually like to scale floor plans and stuff, like that always helps. And even like printing it out and like drawing, even if you start digital, always helps as well. What is the biggest lesson you learned about yourself in architecture school? I think the biggest lesson I learned about myself in architecture school is like I tend to have like workaholic tendencies. If I am passionate about something, I will want to do more. I will always ask for more work, and I have a hard time saying no, which is not a good thing. I'm working on it. I'm working on it a lot, but I think those are like two things that were big. A lot of the stress that I put on myself is my own stress. Nobody is forcing me to do any of this, and yet I'm in architecture school working 3 jobs. Like there was no need for me to do that, but I chose to do that just because I was like, oh, I'm interested in so many things and I can't say no. Girl, you can say no. It is okay to say no. Learn to say no. I think that was like a huge lesson that I learned. And also just like learning more about me as a designer, and like learning what I was interested in. I came into architecture school being like, I'm gonna do residential. This is what I want to do. And I left architecture school being like, I never want to touch residential, at least for a while. And I want to work in commercial buildings, civic buildings, community buildings, like community outreach type work, and like education. Like that was a huge part of it, and I never thought of doing that when I first got into architecture school. So yeah, I think those were 2 things. And like obviously I think one of the biggest things too was just to be kinder to myself. I think the first couple years I was quite mean to myself for no reason. Taking this time to like reflect on architecture school and being able to have like actual live footage and memories that I'm able to watch, being kinder and being nicer to myself was definitely like a big lesson that I learned. Someone asked for model making tips. I could make like a whole video on model making. I love model making. Model making is like one of my favorite things to do. I like found it very therapeutic. If I could be, I'm not good enough to do this, but if I like was hired to make models like full-time, I think I would. It was just so fun. I would like put a movie on, I would make my little laser cut file, and yeah, I relied heavily on the laser cutter. I think the laser cutter and I were like this. We were besties. I laser cut a lot. I never really cut by hand because I wanted to use like nicer materials a lot of the time for my final models, like basswood and like mat board and all these different types of things that were harder to cut through, and it would look sloppy if I cut with like my Olfa. I could make like a whole tutorial about how to like laser cut and make laser cut files. Materials make a big difference in your models, whether that be like using mat board over foam core. Like I used foam core for like my first 2 years, I think, and then I never touched it again. I hate foam core. I think it's like sloppy if it's not done correctly, and it just goes downhill if it's not done correctly. Cardboard also, like, not the biggest fan. Chipboard, love chipboard. I think it's thin, delicate, like looks good. Very, like, you can paint it if you want, whatever. Love mat board. I started using acrylic more. Started using basswood, and then in my final models I actually 3D printed the roofs, which was stupid expensive for no reason, but I was like, you know what, I want to keep these forever, and I want them somewhere on display in my future home, so I am going to make them look as nice as possible. So yeah, add human scale figures also in your models, just to give it like depth and being able to understand like, oh, this wall is actually like yay tall compared to a little human. And tacky glue, oh, this was another thing. Tacky glue is very strong. You don't need that much of it. You really don't. Like, you do a little dip, in a little dip, and stick it, you are good to go. You do not need more tacky glue. So don't go crazy with the tacky glue. Oh, a terminal studio timeline. Okay, so Oregon does terminal studios, which is similar to a thesis studio, but it's like a regular studio, but you have more like scope to do whatever you want. Our terminal studio specifically was 20 weeks. It was winter and spring term, and we would have our like first midterm check-in, which was like halfway through winter term, and then we'd have our actual midterm, which was the end of winter term, and then we'd have our like 3/4 check-in that some studios don't even do in spring term, and then our final review at the end of spring term. We definitely started off with like a lot of research. A lot of studios will even start like in the fall just to get like a lot of that research out of the way, building site models and kind of exploring like different precedents for the typology that you want to do. Very similar to a different, like any other studio, going down to like the nitty-gritty stuff, like the more floor plan, perspectives, like key moments happening, like why, or sustainable efforts too. A lot of that, I think our spring term professor specifically had brought in a lot of consultants that specialized in different sustainable initiatives, or even like interior specialists and interior designers that gave us feedback on our work, or landscape architects too that gave us feedback on our work, and that was so useful, and it was amazing and very, very great to be able to talk to them about your ideas and learn from them, because they truly are experts and they know what they're doing and we don't, and we're here to learn. So I think that was very useful. So get as much help as you can from like people who specialize in those specific careers or different paths. Yeah, that was kind of the timeline. We just like started off and then slowly progressing little by little. It wasn't a race to complete. I know a lot of studios will be like, finish your entire building by like winter term, and then like spring term is just refinement and adding sustainable initiatives. I had like a really big design change during midterm, from like a three building scheme to like a 2 building scheme, which was like a lot to like work on, but it was definitely like made a world of difference. Any tips for grad school after architecture? I don't know if I have any tips specifically, but I have like things that I guess I can go more about the B-Arc versus BS or BA situation. So if you do a B-Arc, you can do, which is a 5-year program. You don't necessarily need your master's, but let's say like you want to do your master's, you totally can. I have been told and like recommended by like other professions or professionals in the profession to like specialize in something that I'm interested in, whether that's like research related or whatnot, or study abroad, like do grad school in a different country, or do grad school in a different subject entirely, because you don't technically need your MArch, but if you want it, you can. But just like know what you want to do with your MArch before going into it, whether that means like working for a couple years and then pursuing your MArch, something like that. Personally, I like would like to work for a couple years and then do my MArch abroad, whether that's in Asia, in Europe, UK. I would like to do, or even Australia, that would be really cool. I would like to do grad school in a different country, just so I think there's like different learning opportunities and different opportunities to explore in other countries. So to be able to do that, I think that would be really amazing. But that's my plan. And then I could also be able to get to work abroad, which is also another perk. But yeah, that's kind of my my plan specifically for that. But if you do the BS, BA route, or BFA or whatever route, or literally major in anything else but architecture, or like don't do your B-Arch, you can do your MArch, which is a 3-year program, I believe. And you are, once you do your MArch, you are able to practice architecture, and you're eligible to take your license exams after that. So, which is not like, it's 3 years is not bad at all, but it's definitely like very difficult, at least what I've heard from my friends who have done grad school. But yeah, so that's also another opportunity to pursue that. And then you get your MArch, which is like semi-equivalent to a B-Arch in the licensing and NCARB AXP hour world. Like some overall advice, I think like put unnecessary pressure on yourself, that like it's not the end of the world if you don't finish like one drawing that you need to do. Like it'll be okay. And realizing that like if you're happy with your work, then, and you can talk about your work, then I think that's the most important. There are so many people that I know that like they might not have been able to put their full 100% in their work, but they know how to talk about their work, and they know like the ins and outs of the project, and they'll get like a better final review. You know what I mean? Like it's all about the way that you talk about your work. So learning to talk about your work is very important. And also just like have fun. I know that's like a very cliche advice, but it is a really good time, and you're gonna make amazing memories and meet amazing people, and like just make use of that, and like set aside time to like meet with people and have time to spend with people you care about, people that care about you, and also like do things like have some hobbies. To quote my sister, have some hobbies, do something, whether that be like intramural sports or like a club or an art center, like do some sort of like extra class that isn't necessarily related to architecture, but you think you'll learn like a lot from it. But I think like just like explore different opportunities as well if you have the option to. Yeah, don't sit in studio, don't pull an all-nighter. It's not worth it. 100% not worth it. Just prioritize your stuff accordingly and know when to quit. I think that's another big thing, is when something is like, you know what, if I keep touching this, it's either one, gonna become worse, two, I'm going to hate it like if I keep looking at it, and three, you're just like delusional and it's 3 a.m. we put the pencil down, put the pen down, put the mouse away, turn it off, close the laptop, put it away. Like, you do not need it. It is okay. It is a-okay. So yeah, and I personally, I work better in the mornings and the afternoons and not in my apartment, so I would always like either go to the science library, or I would go to a cafe or studio to work, the design library too, or even just like a cafe on campus or something. I found that I was more productive there when I was around other people versus like in my room, where I could easily procrastinate and be like, oh, I actually have to like fold my laundry. Did I have to fold my laundry at that very minute? No, of course not. But like, you know what I mean? I think this is the last question, which is probably good because this video is very, very long already. Where are you going next? Or what is the plan in getting an architecture job? That's a great question. One, as you can tell, I am home. I don't know if you can tell, but I am home. I'm from California. I found a job, and it's been like 3 weeks now that I've been working there, which has been really amazing. It's called HGA Architects. They have multiple different offices around the country, and it's been really amazing so far. I've started working on project work. I'm going on site and stuff, and it's been like incredible. And the people are so sweet and so welcoming, so it's been really amazing. I didn't have a job when I graduated, which was very daunting. I was really nervous and terrified, obviously. Obviously, there were like paths. There were like, okay, like interviews and stuff had been lined up and all that, but I didn't like have anything in my hand. I didn't have anything signed before I left school. I didn't know where I was gonna go, which was very troublesome. I was really anxious about it, and I don't know why I was measuring my success with how independent I was, which is not the case at all, and I can definitely go into that in a different video. But like, I don't know why I measured my success of like, okay, I need to move out, I need to like be on my own, have an apartment, work in like a big city, whatever. And after coming home for a few months, I started to realize like, hey, I should not be like doing, I don't know why I was thinking that way, because like that's not the case. I like in my head have fulfilled everything to make me like a successful person. I have a job, I am supported by amazing people, I'm being able to spend time with my family, which I think like is such an amazing opportunity, especially since my sisters are going to college next year, and I like will not be able to be in the same house with them again for who knows how long, but we get to actually live together for another year, and I think that like I definitely like am so grateful for that. Spend time with my parents too, which is like, I have my entire life to be able to like go and explore different like career paths, explore different cities, move, meet new people, whatnot. But I think right now like it's really good that I'm staying at home. Also get to save money, which is very grateful for the opportunity to be able to stay at home. I know that like this is not necessarily like an American thing to do, and it's always like, I feel like growing up, like we see that like in American television when someone's like living at home, and like it's viewed as like a bad thing, but in Asian culture it is viewed as like a normal thing. Like my parents stayed at home post college, my like aunts and uncles stayed with their family. Like it's a normal thing to move back home, and I think like, I don't know why I was looking at it in a very American standpoint of like, you failed in life if you come and live at home, which is not the case whatsoever at all. It is a total lie. But yeah, so I'm working at HGA. It's been really great, but yeah, it's been really great so far, and that's where I'm going next, is here. It's my home. So yeah, and I also like, my parents moved when I was in high school, so I didn't, or when I was in college, so I haven't like spent that much time at this house, and I am excited to spend more time here because it's a great house and I love it. But it needs like a little architecture touch, so that's where I come in. We're gonna like change up the furniture and stuff a little bit because it's a little dated. Love my parents, love their style, but we're gonna like zhuzh it up a little bit. I think that's my plan. If you have any other questions or comments or concerns or anything, please put them in the comments down below, and or message me on Instagram, DM me. I am more than happy to answer any questions you may have about architecture, any thoughts, comments you have about architecture. If you just want to chat about like architecture school, if you want laptop recommendations, apparently I do that as well for architecture school. But yeah, it can be a very daunting process, but you got it. If I got into architecture school, you can easily get into architecture school. Like, no competition whatsoever. You can absolutely do it. So yeah, I'm so excited for your journey, your 5-year, 4-year, how many ever year journey for architecture school. And yeah, bye. I hope you enjoyed.